Been asked these questions many times in the past, but has life changed for him?
They've come here before, but what's the point? I still can't send my kids to school or get a decent job.
Nobody really knows how many homeless there are in India. Figures are sketchy and unreliable. And with no identification papers, children can't go to schools and families can't claim welfare benefits. The point of this exercise is to include every homeless person in this country, and government officials are conducting simultaneous exercises all across India. And the time that they have to complete this is literally 2 days. So, not everyone's been counted. Across the city in a different area, this activist says officials have not counted large numbers of people.
This is a total mockery of a statutory provision. Census gives you the real figures, and we treat census data as sacrosanct. That what realities emerge, we take it. We have learned from census data as such. People will be deprived of their basic rights, basic entitlements.
As the rest of India races ahead on the road to modernity, there's a real danger the flaws in this exercise may leave behind some of its most vulnerable. Predna Suri, AlJazeera, New Delhi.
Two former leaders of Argentina's military dictatorship have appeared in court on charges of taking hundreds of babies away from their parents. Teresa Bo reports from Buenos Aires.
Argentina is putting its past on trial and on television for the nation to see. In the 1970s and 80s, when the country was ruled by a military junta, these two men played leading roles. Rafael Videla and Reinaldo Viñone are accused of orchestrating a scheme to take babies away from political prisoners and give them new identities and new parents. Victoria Donda was one of those children. She was born to a jail dissident who then disappeared. There are as many as 500 cases like Victoria's.
For me, this is necessary to close a chapter of Argentina's dictatorship. And it's an example of the magnitude of the horror, which is to steal the babies of those opposing the dictatorship. I think this helps us heal as a society.
Throughout the 7 years of military rule in Argentina, the government conducted an aggressive and bloody campaign against left-wing groups. Human rights organizations say 30,000 people died in the so-called Dirty War. A campaign to bring alleged perpetrators of the baby thefts to trial has been led by a group of parents of Dirty War victims.
We don't want revenge, we want justice. It revolts me to watch them there after what they did.
Supporters of Videla and Viñone dismissed the trial as a bid for revenge by the leftists they defeated decades ago and who now control Argentina's government. The trial is the first of several related to baby thefts, and it's expected to take several months. More than 350 witnesses are expected to testify. Teresa Bo, AlJazeera, Buenos Aires.
7:30 hours GMT. These are the stories making headlines. Muammar Gaddafi's forces have been fighting back against anti-government fighters in Libya. Air Force jets have bombed a rebel-held ammunition depot in the city of Ajdabiya, that's east of Tripoli. The cities of Zawiya and Benghazi were also attacked. The Libyan leader has laughed off calls for him to quit, saying he'll never leave his homeland. He also claims he is loved by the Libyan people. In a television interview with international media, Muammar Gaddafi repeated his claim that Al-Qaeda is to blame for the unrest sweeping his country. Well, as the fighting goes on inside Libya, governments are continuing to evacuate their people from the country. There were tears of relief from this Pakistani man as he arrived home at Lahore airport. He was among the 170 evacuated on a specially chartered flight. And in New Delhi, another 266 Indians have arrived home on a special Air India flight. Around 18,000 Indians were working in Libya before the unrest. Nigerians evacuated from Libya are accusing the Gaddafi regime of atrocities against them. Nearly 1,000 have been flown home in the past 2 days, while another 1,000 are awaiting rescue.
I have so many friends in Libya. They told me that they cannot speak because Gaddafi has killed their cousins and uncles. He destroyed them all.
I thank God because I'm free today. And I'm not going back to any Arab world. I will never travel to any Arab world again.
Egypt's top prosecutor has imposed a travel ban on former President Hosni Mubarak and his family. He's also ordered a freeze on all their financial assets inside the country. A heavy military presence is back on the streets of the Tunisian capital a day after the prime minister bowed out following a wave of protests. 2 ministers have also now resigned from the caretaker government. New Zealand has marked a week since the magnitude 6.3 earthquake hit the city of Christchurch. The country observed 2 minutes of silence to mark the occasion. More than 150 people from 20 nations have been confirmed dead. Earlier in the day, officials said the death toll might hit 240 as search and rescue crews continue to look for the missing. And the Indian government is nearing the end of a survey that aims to give an accurate number of people living on the streets. India has one of the world's highest rates of homelessness. I'll leave you now with Al Jazeera's Inside Story, and Folly Batibo will be with you at the top of the hour.
World powers urged to take action over mounting abuses of human rights in Libya as the country's embattled leader fights for his future. But with Muammar Gaddafi threatening to cleanse the country house by house, are words enough to protect unarmed Libyan civilians? This is Inside Story. Hello and welcome to the programme. I'm Hazem Sika. On Saturday, the UN Security Council voted unanimously to impose financial sanctions and refer Libya to the International Criminal Court. And in an attempt to strengthen this decision, foreign ministers met in Geneva on Monday at a UN Human Rights Council to discuss the future of Libya. But also on the agenda, what action should be taken against Gaddafi and his regime for human rights violations against the Libyan people. Well, Catherine Ashton, the European Union foreign policy chief, said accountability in Libya was a must.
We condemn the grave human rights violations being committed in Libya. The violence and the repression must stop. Those responsible must be held to account. Not just a European position, but the view of the international community and its highest authority, the UN Security Council.
William Hague, British Foreign Secretary, had a stern warning for Libyan authorities as well.
Last week, the Council spoke with one voice to affirm the universal rights of people in Libya and to condemn the gross and systematic violations of those rights by the Libyan authorities, including the use of heavy weaponry against civilians, the deaths of women and children, and cold-blooded incitement to violence. Today, we have signaled that crimes will not be condoned, will not go unpunished, will not be forgotten. And this is a warning to anyone contemplating the abuse of human rights in Libya or in any other country. Stay your hand.